morning and welcome to Wake Up to Working From Home, our weekly reality check on all things WFH. I'm Barry Ennis and today I'm joined by the incredible Sam Moinet.
You got it right.
Yeah, founder of the Student Breakthrough. And the quite frankly smashing Polly Downs, our resident coach, who specialises in coaching parents and families. So since the government took the unprecedented steps to shut down the schools for the majority of children, parents and families have rapidly risen to the challenge of homeschooling our young. And now as we approach a warm Easter break, although it doesn't look so warm today, and the continued lockdown measures are in place, should we down tools and start eating chocolate or try and catch up on the curriculum? And are life lessons more important than math lessons at this point? So with us as a former teacher, Sam witnessed many challenges that young people face and hence set up Student Breakthrough to support them. And as a mama of 3 secondary school kids, Polly is currently navigating the homeschool curriculum. Our format is simple. We take 3 topics and share our insights. We're not experts. We have the same amount of clues as you, 0, but have experiences and ideas that we will hopefully bring to life and make useful. It's a panel discussion, so you don't need to have your camera on. Just get a cup of tea, sit back and watch, and you can take part in the chat box or in the Q&A bits below, and we're running some live polls throughout just to get your input on some of the topics. So today we decided, and excuse me for having a bit of a sore throat today. I haven't got coronavirus, I promise. I said I'd never mention the word. Damn, editor. So I think we decided today our topics would be a schedule, curriculum, and mental health. They're what we're going to tackle today. So welcome both of you. Polly, is school out for summer, or are you currently in the middle of your staff room morning break?
School is out in this house.
Did it start?
So I've got 3 teenagers, and managing their daily schedule has been tough on the homeschooling side of things. Just trying to get them all. I've tried to keep them in a schedule of getting up at 8 o'clock, starting schoolwork at around 9. Not really because I care that much whether they're doing their schoolwork, but more for their own mental health.
And I guess also for you to have some sort of structure, right?
Yeah, because otherwise they'd be getting up at 1 or 2 and then they wouldn't want to go to bed, and I need to go to bed to get up to work. So I want us as a family to be in the same structure. But now it's the holidays, obviously that's not going to happen. If it was normal Easter holidays, we'd be doing things or going and visiting family or something, which would mean there would be still a bit of structure to the day. But now we've got 2 weeks where, again, they could just sleep until 2 every day, and they would if I let them. So I think I'm gonna. My plan is to get them up around, wake them up around 10ish, and hope they're downstairs by 11ish. But in terms of
managing expectations, there, I like it. Yeah.
You like the way of saying I hope. I think.
Yeah, I hope.
But for them, you know, how they're going to entertain themselves and what they're going to do is a whole other thing. And teenagers are a bit better probably, but I think if you have young kids, you know, what will you do? And maybe some people will carry on doing a bit of learning work just to try and keep some structure.
And let me say hello to Sam. So Sam, shouldn't you be in class? You look like you're just about to leave juniors.
No, that was a long time ago now. I've got a little bit of facial hair coming.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure if that was just paint.
It's my
Thanks for coming.
The quarantine beard, or trying to. But Polly, what you said about the routine thing, I was coaching a boy recently, he's 18, not a boy, I guess a man, who's really struggled. He's now going to bed at he's going to bed at 3 in the morning now because he's getting up so late, and his mum hasn't installed some sort of loose routine. I think even though he's 18 and technically, you know, he should be able to stick to something, he's really struggled with that. And because of that, his mental health has gone, you know, a little bit wayward because he's got nothing to wake up for in some ways. So I think having some sort of loose structure like you're doing is really, really positive, even if, you know, they might not be doing focused schoolwork now all the time.
How do you do it, Polly? Because I remember being a teenager and having a normal school day and not getting out of bed, to then not actually have to go anywhere, just to come downstairs in your PJs. How do you do it?
I haven't started yet.
This is a theory. This is good theory then.
Yeah, I think I've explained to them the thinking behind it. It's not, they're certainly not going to jump out of bed at 10 o'clock, but I think they do understand, why it's important to them. And I think my concern is what to do with them so it actually does feel like the holidays, because until this 3 weeks ago they were working really hard and they did deserve a break, and now that they're doing a lot of managing their own time with their homeschooling as well. So I want them to feel like they're having a break and a holiday, and for them staying in bed till 2 would feel like that. So it is going to be, it's a difficult one for them. I don't know, I think we might just have to do things like have lots of takeaways, and I don't know, my 12-year-old wants to have theme days where we're going to do, we're going to have a dinner party thing where he's going to be the waiter. That's one thing. That's one thing. Now we've only got another 13 to think about.
But, and this is cringe now, but is there any way you could make that into some sort of schooling event in some way? Like the whole kind of cooking.
I think all these experiences are, he's been cooking quite a lot and he's never been that interested in cooking before, so that's good. I did on their first day of the working from school days, I sent them all a text in the morning saying, after you finish school, your challenge of the day is to measure the area of the outside of the house so I know how much paint I need, and then we're going to paint it. And their response was, yeah, nice try.
Even I nearly bought into that.
I know. So I think with little kids, I think there's some great opportunities for that sort of cross-curricular learning, which it's playing, but if it's go outside and find me 5 insects and write their names down or draw a picture of them, that's brilliant learning in a really holistic way. Older kids, yes, things like my daughter actually tidied the whole kitchen for the first time. That's good life skills.
Yeah. And Sam, in your experience, what are the ways to kind of motivate kids to do stuff they don't necessarily want to do? Have you got any insights?
It's always a tough one. I think the biggest thing for me is always it's hard at this time is purpose.
Right.
Like having a purpose of an outcome of what you're doing, and then working towards that. But at the moment there's no exams. There's no end point for this. So I think the motivation thing is really, really tough. But I think setting small achievable action steps each day is probably the best thing. What are the 3 things you want to do today? Whether it's collect insects, whether it's clean the kitchen or do a little bit of maths, just keep it really, really simple, because something is better than nothing. And then, maybe tick that off on a win chart or something they've achieved that day. And I think that's the big thing for this, is just not overcomplicating it.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of like core coaching principles in a way, isn't it? What to achieve today, and maybe have, I don't know, full disclosure, I don't have kids, so I feel like a total fraud in this conversation. But I guess if I was looking at it from a kind of coaching point of view, where a lot of the time we are trying to get people to do things that they kind of know they need to do but don't necessarily want to do. And it is that kind of in finding the purpose, finding the motivation, do some stuff that you want to do, play to your strengths. So maybe it's a sense of kind of having a view of what the curriculum is or what the schedule could be, and then getting kids to decide what they want, power to the kids.
Yeah, I think, again, that's probably the easiest way. If we're doing coaching principles, that's why what we do works at Student Breakthrough, because they set their own action steps and they go away and achieve them from a young age. So I think an easy way is having some sort of loose routine, 3 basic things they want to achieve that day, and then tick those off and then move forward. But the thing with curriculum is what do you focus on?
Yeah.
And I think for some students, really working on at least one of their subjects they really struggle with. So let's say they have all their GCSE subjects, and let's say they are struggling with history or something, they might want to dedicate a bit more time for that than maybe something they're more confident with, perhaps, as an outline of their day.
And Polly, you were saying, I like that thing about getting them up at 10, be realistic there at the table for 11, because again, thinking about when I was a teenager, I didn't, my clock was I didn't really function until I was about 10 or 11 in the morning. And school was so hard for me because I couldn't get up at 7 in the morning. Whereas now it seems that there's an opportunity to run the schooling day kind of later if you want.
I think it's just whatever fits in with your family. So if nobody was working at all, then why not all get up at 11 and go to bed at midnight, but I do need to get up and work, which means I want to go to bed earlier. And for me, the decision is I want us all to go to bed at the same time. I don't want the kids to be going to bed after me, but in my head that doesn't feel like I'm doing the right thing as a mum, or I feel a bit too out of control. In fact, I dread to think what might happen. But I think it's being flexible, according to your family's needs. And it could be, I think I'm talking about teenagers. If you've got young kids, they're usually up at 6, aren't they? So then, maybe as a family, you all go to bed earlier to deal with the fact that every day you've got them up at 6 and you're trying to entertain them all at 6.
And I guess that kind of moves us on to the second piece, which is curriculum. And again, having no idea, I did my GCSEs in 1996, so I'm sure it's moved on slightly.
I was 5.
Right, see, you made my point very well. What areas, Sam, do you think are going to be trickiest on the curriculum at the minute to homeschool?
I guess the practical side. I mean, I've spoke to lots of teachers, and like the content is really easy because they can just set a worksheet on Google Docs and going through that. But I guess more skills-based stuff like exam questions and how to answer and how to structure essays, or more practical things, they're really going to struggle with.
Yeah, all I can think of is a Bunsen burner. Like, who has a Bunsen burner at home?
You got a hob? You got a hob? You can.
This is good. Yeah. So what you're recommending, Sam, is that people all just gather around the hob and just start burning different metals.
Just see how it goes.
Just dissect the cat. Yeah, that's fine.
Do some acting in the front room or something like that for drama. Bang some pots together for music. I don't know. Be
practical things. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm just thinking now. Like the sciences, I'm sure, are tricky, right?
Well, that's the thing. You can read the content, but some stuff you actually have to do it. Now, when I taught history, we didn't have to if you're year 7, we might have recreated a battle right now and again or something fun like that. But I think for me, the content would be really, really easy. But the curriculum thing is, like I said earlier, it depends on each student. And I really, really feel that, you can't just say maths, English and science, although they are important. It's actually about what's the subject you're kind of struggling with, and you don't want to be left behind when school does go back. So if you're listening to this and you've got a son or daughter who maybe is struggling to do anything, at least get them to focus on one thing, one subject that they find a little bit challenging, and work even half an hour on that day, because then they won't be left behind.
And Polly, have any of your lot kind of shown a new passion for a certain subject since they've been working from home?
No.
Laying in bed, watching Netflix, these are great skills.
I think my biggest concern was my daughter, who's meant to do her GCSEs, and she said, what's the point? The school are just sending lots of tests through for her to do, and she's saying, what's the point when I'm not going to do exams? And she's kind of got a point there. So with her, I'm trying to respect the fact that she is, it's a really disappointing situation to be in for them. So she knows what subject she wants to do for A-levels, and she knows she wants to do A-levels. So she's doing reading around her A-level subjects and watching relevant YouTube videos. And I do think with the home learning, there are some really brilliant teachers who've created YouTube videos for the actual lessons, following the whole curriculum, and they can be really, really helpful. I think particularly for parents who are struggling with, if my kids come to me and they're stuck with maths, but maths is way more complicated than when we did our GCSE. Barry, maybe not you, Sam. And so I don't really know where to start, but on YouTube there are really good explanations, and I think they learn better in that way, mine seem to, than just staring at the piece of paper. I also have huge questions around what they're really going to learn, and when they go back to school, I can't imagine, it's not going to be fair to start from the point of all these things they've sent through. I imagine they're probably just going to have to go back to the beginning again, the teachers, and cover it all again anyway. So
yeah, I was just thinking that if I was in this situation, I left teaching in 2018, so not that long ago, and if I was doing this, you'd 100% have to recap everything you're doing. And with history and other subjects, there's so much content now to get through. So it might be a faster recap, but you're still going to have to get through that, and you're still going to have to go over it. So Paul, I love what you said though about your daughter, because there's obviously tens of thousands of students who haven't been able to do their GCSEs, and that's great work. I think just doing some reading around your subjects at A-levels, I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
right now. I think that's a great, again, flexible and depending on your situation. There's not like a cookie cutter shape, right? For homeschooling, it really relates to you guys as a family. So yeah, that.
And I think the thing is, it's not homeschooling in the way that people who make the decision to keep their kids away from school, from a school, and do homeschooling. That's a completely different thing to this. We're trying to help our kids to learn whilst doing our own jobs. We're not qualified. We haven't done any research into it. So I think for parents, it's really, really difficult at the moment we don't understand lots of the subjects. Primary school kids need a lot of input.
I was just going to say that actually, because a niece in my family, like a niece twice removed or something, has always been homeschooled the whole way through me growing up. And it was always this kind of anomaly in our family that these guys were being homeschooled. And you're quite right, they didn't work and they had extra support, dedicated support in order to do that. And so the name homeschooling that we're using today and people are using is really untrue, isn't it? It's kind of juggling another element of this pressure that we're all under to try and kind of keep kids engaged and on the educational path. But
it's almost like loads of homework. And in my family, homework has always been a source of stress. I've always thought homework should be banned because it's really hard to integrate the learning they have at school with trying to get them to do homework or do that kind of work when they're at home. So that makes it very difficult, I think.
I'm just having a little look at the polls here. So we'll be delighted to know that 100% of people say that they do not stick to the recommended school schedule. So, people are just doing it their own way, which is actually really nice to hear, because we're going to talk about mental health in a second. And I think we're probably focusing on the mental health of children, but actually the mental health of parents having to try and manage all of this must be huge pressure. And the second question we asked is, are you using the home environment to educate, i.e. baking? And Polly, you were talking about doing some maths. And I think 100% of people said, yeah, they are. They're just using stuff that's around the house, everyday situations where they're educating. And I kind of love that, because I don't know about you guys, again, I feel a bit of a fraud, but it felt like the curriculum had moved away slightly from what real life was about and what the working environment was about. And Polly, when you're saying, like the reason we all need to go to bed at a certain time is because mummy's got to get up and go to work to pay for this place, it's kind of like, they're important messages, and finding out about the finances of the house and how this works. It feels like there's an opportunity now. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are lots of those. They're seeing, we're all in the same place and seeing the patterns and seeing, how much. I feel like I spend my life cooking and clearing up at the moment. So I'm getting them to do a bit more of that. And I think they're finding that kind of tiring, but with that comes a bit of understanding what life is like as an adult. And I think I really think for primary school children, if I had primary school children now, I'd be so focused on those kind of learning opportunities, get them to make their own sandwich at lunchtime. But that could become a learning. When I worked in a primary school, one of the favourite lessons for year 2 was when they had to write instructions of how to make a sandwich, and then they brought in their ingredients and they made a sandwich. And then there's a little bit of science in there with their measurements, there's writing, there's maths, that's a good little cross-curricular lesson.
Top tip from Polly there. And I think moving on to the mental health piece, it does feel like the most important area to talk about at the minute, both from a kid's perspective and, well, I guess from a family perspective, household perspective. I guess, Polly, do you want to share, how's that going in your household? How are you managing it, or yours and everybody else's?
So I think there's something around giving everybody space. Some days we'll all go for a walk together for that hour, but that's quite rare. Generally, I kind of encourage them to go out on their own to just have a bit of space, especially when they're starting to fight and shout a lot. So my daughter has had some big mental health issues over the last year with, I think, the stress and anxiety of work as well as other things. So that's where the structure is really important. But that you know, that has helped me in a way, because she understands the importance of the structure for her to get up at a certain time and to keep her mind active and learning. I really think I just hope that this 1 hour exercise continues to be allowed, because I think getting out, even if they're not going to go for a run, just a walk is amazing for everybody's mental health.
Sam, just before I come to you, I just want to recognise that Michael has got in touch. Michael Baglia is saying that he's got a son in reception and requires almost constant engagement to keep him focused on his schoolwork. So they're doing a 9 till 12 schooling, lunch, and then in the afternoons are free, where the parents can then work. And again, I think it's just finding out that individual schedule that works for your family. Are the schools recommending stuff? Are the schools kind of dictating anything?
Depends on the school, really. Right. Like some schools are doing lessons non-stop, like in terms of you still get your lessons, the teacher will log on to Zoom and they're using, like literally teaching. So the students still have to show up. Some schools are literally...
There's only one laptop in the house? What if you've only got one device? Yeah. That's hard.
And like Polly mentioned with like the space, that's another thing you've got to consider in this time is, who's got access to the resources and what time? Because not everyone, has got, not everyone's got a laptop. So I think space and giving people that room is really, really important. So I was looking at another comment.
And like Michael, I'm actually doing that. My kids, I get them to do half an hour roughly per subject, and the plan is for them to be finished around 12:30 every day.
That's good. Echo, then the afternoon's free. We're getting some lovely comments in now, but Sam, do you want to just give us your perspective on mental health? I know you work with kids specifically in terms of the challenges around schooling.
Yeah, I think, we're obviously week 3 now, aren't we, of the lockdown now. And I think we spoke about at the start, Barry, there's a bit more, a bit more known quantities than there was at the start. The students that I've been working with, really, the ones who've been struggling have had no routine. They've almost been left to their own devices in some ways. And I think that's brought on their own challenges of anxiety and worry. And like I mentioned at the start, like the routine and having some sort of structure is so, so, so important. Even if it's like Polly just getting them up at 10, like that is still a routine. I feel as well, it's a great time to focus on empathy and really listening to your kids. Now you're spending more time with them. Like we're all busy, we're all rushing around, especially if you're working from home. But I feel now you can really connect on a deeper level and not just like, listen to reply, but actually listen to understand and build a bit more empathy. So I think as we're all coaches on here, asking those, deeper questions sometimes, if you've got the space to, is going to be great to help your kids if they are struggling with, especially anxiety around this time, because, everything's changed. So have a routine, ask some questions and actually get them to do at least something each day to make them productive and achieve something.
Yeah, I'm really struck by that notion that we're calling them kids. They are kids, but it's getting to know them as people in a way, isn't it? It's a different opportunity to level with the other people that you're living with.
Well, I think like Polly mentioned in terms of appreciating what, I guess if you're a child, appreciating what your mum and dad actually do for you in terms of cooking and cleaning, showing up, like running a business, for you guys coaching. And I think out of the back of this, a massive positive, everyone is going to have at least 1% more empathy for the people in their household and hopefully worldwide as well. So I think that's a massive great thing to focus on is, just listening a bit more and developing those. We talk about new skills like, I don't know, learning to do a headstand or like yoga or all this stuff, but what if we just learned the skill of listening a little bit more?
Yeah, nice.
I agree, Sam. And I also think there's something about a sort of emotional awareness that can come out of this time. So Kate has just sent us a message through saying that her daughter's back from uni and she's suffering from loss. She's sad at the loss. I think it's a huge emotion that we're all feeling. And I think it's quite hard. The younger you are, obviously, the more difficult, but it's really quite the situation we're in now, it's hard to grasp the fact that lots of us are experiencing grief. And for children, that sudden lack of, they're not going to school, they're not seeing their friends, and for adolescents as well. I'd say to Kate, it's really good that impressive that your daughter's no, she's acknowledged that it's a loss that she's experiencing at the moment, because I think lots of us are just confused and can't really name it.
Yeah.
And I feel like with little kids, there are really good ways to start the day. They're confused and often they can't describe what's confusing them. But even if it's like, I had a really good, I'll give it to you, Barry, to post to people, an emoji thing, and it's just heart-coloured emojis, 6 of them, and you check in every day, and one's I feel fantastic, and the bottom one's I really need some support. And I think for primary school kids and all of us, that's really helpful to just be able to say how you're feeling and talk around that. And there are opportunities that in a normal school day, when you're rushing to get out of the house and then they have clubs after school or whatever, you don't really get to talk about feelings very much. And they're amazing life skills that help us become a much more emotionally intelligent adult.
Yeah, and I think there's a sense of allowing what is. So the isolation that might be needed, the expression of emotion, could be anger or frustration that might feel out of place. It's just to sort of allow stuff. I mean, I'm talking from my own perspective here of realizing of this kind of underlying low level of stress that I can't really attribute to anything, but it's clearly because we were in this uncertainty. And I quite like to be certain about things. And I know that I've been reacting in probably quite obscure ways. And for kids, that must be tenfold, or potential to be tenfold. And so there's probably just a sense of allowing and not trying to fix. I don't know what you think about that, but like the space piece sounds to be really important, in that you just allow the space to be, and then have faith that it will come back, that the children will come back.
Yeah, I think it comes to like leadership as well, in terms of you've got to show, though we are all uncertain, we might feel a little bit stressed. Obviously, if you've got younger kids, like, you need to really be showing up that although this is uncertain, it's also something that we can overcome and we can come back stronger from. Because like the language you use, creates the reality in the household, especially if you've got younger kids. It's really important that, yeah, you can talk about the uncertainty, but equally show them that this is going to make us stronger as a family, or we're going to learn lots of lessons from this, and really be that role model for them, not panicking them, if that makes sense. But also, yeah, like allowing that conversation to be had.
I'm just thinking about, I know, Polly, you didn't see it, but the nation's mother, if you like, Queenie, who spoke last night, and she delivered this, whether you are into the royal family or not, but she delivered this very soothing, positive message that didn't talk about challenge and didn't talk about suffering, but talked about resolve and coming together and good humor. And there was a sense of watching it last night thinking, okay, there are other perspectives on this, however tricky it might be. And that notion of leadership, I think it puts a pressure on the adults in the environment to have to step up to that. But if they can, for the sake of everybody, it's probably worthwhile. And that's probably quite a good note to me, in all honesty, because yeah, it's what did you say? It's week 3 of it. Yeah, it feels like it's been about 3 years, doesn't it? I don't know if it's like that for you, but to think about it in terms of 3 weeks is quite an eye-opener.
Sometimes I'm like, this is really normal, and then sometimes I'm like, this is so unnormal. Do you know what I mean? Because it feels like a bit more, it's been going on for a while now, but sometimes
when people say it's going to return to normal, you're like, is it? And also, what was that? So I guess the opportunity there is to then think about, how would we like this to be going forward? What are the new rules that we want to create as a family unit? How do we want to handle this together? Because those people out there aren't telling us what to do anymore. That's quite liberating in a way.
And that's a great question to ask, by the way, just is like, how do we want to handle this? And like, what are your strengths? How can you help the family at this time? We've got a rota in our household. I can't cook, so I'm doing lots of cleaning, washing up. My brother's back from traveling, and like, we're all helping each other out like that. So having those conversations with your children, like, what can you bring to the table? What can you offer? Like, and set those outcomes, I think is awesome, Barry.
So look, we're out of time, and I've been very naughty because I just felt like this was a good conversation for us to have, especially the mental health piece. But I want to keep it to half an hour so that we don't just become another one of those kind of Zoom overload webinars that are going around. But just to wrap up, guys, could you just share your one thing that you'd like to leave us with? Maybe Sam, you start. What's your top tip for today?
Top tip, don't put pressure on yourself to be a perfect teacher or a perfect parent. be flexible, and take each day as it comes.
Beautiful. Polly, what would you share?
Well, I totally agree with Sam, and I think it's just about looking after yourself as a parent. Be realistic about what you can achieve or expect your children to achieve in a day, and ask them a little bit more about what they think is reasonable, and come negotiate together to get to a place that suits everybody.
And I think mine would probably be do one thing every day. I'm going to take that away myself, even if that's just have a shower, just do one thing every day and start building that routine from there. All right, that goes by so quickly, doesn't it? I feel like I've not made any jokes. I've not taken the piss out of you. I feel like I've lost today. But thank you so much for joining us, Sam, and for Polly, for generating your time, for all of you that registered and contributed today in the chat box. That was really useful. We're back again on Monday with Lisa Paul, who's a lecturer in occupational therapy at Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen, and we're looking at relationships and isolation. So join us then. Until then, stay safe and stay positive. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Heartache